Before we promote tourism, I say everything has its place. It's time and it's season. As the economy continues to grow, soon the sports won't come and go. Then guess what? Jump high, jump low. We must go back to the sun. Jump high, jump low. We must go back to the sun. All right, let me say a special greetings and welcome to everyone who is already here with us. This is the Civic Vibes program for yet another Sunday afternoon, today being the 27th day of March 2022. Yes, how time flies, we are there already. A special good afternoon as well to the guests who will be basically dealing with us this afternoon in terms of the important topic that we are going to expound on this afternoon. Two formidable guests with Paula and myself here this afternoon. In just a while, I'll be telling you the names. Paula Celestine, the co-host for the program, she's here. My name is Loftus Durant, just in case you don't know, just in case you're tuning in for the very first time. This is a program each and every Sunday called Civic Vibes. That is where we engage our persons locally, regionally, and or even internationally at times. And so, yes, we are already live on our Facebook page. So those of you who are already locked or glued with us this afternoon, thank you, as always, for your presence here. But we ask of you each and every time, what is education if it is not shared? What is learning if it is shared? So what we ask of you is that you go right about now and share the live, share with your friends, share with someone, your contact list at this time, who may want to be part and parcel of that all-important conversation that we are about to have here this afternoon. We have as our guest this afternoon, Brother Peter Carbon, Dominican. And so sometimes later, in just a while, I'll be opening up Brother Peter Carbon's mic, as it were, giving him the floor so that he can give you his opening remarks, opening salvo, as it were. So yes, you heard it right, Brother Peter Carbon, a man that is no stranger to us in Dominica. He is here with us this afternoon via his social media platform, Civic Vibes social media platform, that is this afternoon. And as well, we have another erudite brother with us here from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This time is Mr. Sinclair Leacock by name. This guy, I can tell you, is a very formidable guy as well. And so just in a while, you're going to hear from him. He is, as we speak, he will give you a little more detail in terms of his introductory statement in a while. But as we speak, he is the deputy leader of the NDP, that is the opposition party in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So guys, you're in tune for a very big conversation. You're in tune for a very interesting conversation. And all we ask of you is that you keep it locked to the social media platform that you got at this time. Let me just move over to Paula at this time before we go to the guest here and ask Paula to basically give us an opening salvo as we in terms of minutes. Paula, good afternoon to you, my friend. Looking pretty as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, good afternoon to you, Lofty, and how you doing?
Very, very well, Paula.
Okay, how was your week?
Week was excellent.
Okay, I want to say good afternoon to all our viewers and listeners by whatever social media they are listening to us this afternoon. I want to say a blessed Sunday afternoon. As usual, we are expecting to have a very wonderful program, very interesting topic here this afternoon. I want to say good afternoon to our guest, Mr. Carbon, Peter Carbon. I guess our viewers and listeners are very much familiar with Peter Carbon. He's a former parliamentarian and he was also the Minister of Agriculture at one time here in Dominica. Also to our other guest, Mr. Sinclair Leacock. Yes, good afternoon to you, sir. And blessed Sunday afternoon to everyone. Stay locked in. Interesting topic coming up. Thank you.
Good.
All right, thank you very much, Paula, for this opening remarks of yours, as it were. Let me know, by way of just a brief introduction, a short bio, read just a short bio of Mr. Peter Carbon, former Minister of Agriculture in Dominica. And yes, folks, this afternoon, the topic that we're going to have that discussion on is all about the importance of agriculture. Yes, good old agriculture. It may not be the quote unquote sexiest topic around, but it is a very important, it is a very crucial topic. It is a very crucial thing. It's basically our survival here on this side of life depends on agriculture. So the discussion here this afternoon is one of great importance. In terms of starting off getting the conversation going, let me just read a brief bio of Mr. Peter Carbon, as I said before, and then thereafter we'll ask him for his opening remarks. It says here, born and grew up in the village of Woodfordale. Parents were farmers. So Mr. Peter Carbon parents were farmers. So I guess that is why he has that love for farming, as it were. Graduated from the Dominica Grammar School and worked at the Division of Agriculture. He studied at the Eastern Institute of Agriculture and Forestry in Trinidad at UWI, St. Augustine in Trinidad. He also received a fellowship to study the marketing of fruits and vegetables in the United Kingdom. Worked in every area or an operation in the banana industry here in Dominica, and served, yes, I said that before, as the Minister of Agriculture from the years 1995 to 2000. He also manages a greenhouse program in the USVI, and he's an environmentalist specialist with the Florida Department of Agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our pleasure now to bring to you Mr. Peter Carbon. Mr. Carbon, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you, Lofty, and your co-host, Ms. Paula, and my other guest on the program, Mr. Leacock, and to all the listeners to the program. I want to say I'm very pleased that you gave me the invitation to speak on a topic which is my life. I have always been in agriculture, and I know for Dominica is one of the most important areas for survival of our people. So I'm always willing to discuss the issues and hopefully get our people more involved and more motivated to go back to the land and produce for themselves, their family, and the whole world. Thank you.
All right, thank you very, very much. Let me get back to my screen here. Let's get back to my screen. Sorry about that. There's a technical glitch. I end here. Are you guys hearing me still?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I am.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to open up a screen of mine there so we can continue right here.
Okay.
All right. But whilst I'm trying to get that screen open up properly, let me just say thank you very much, Brother Carbon, for your introductory remarks, as it were. It's a pleasure again to have you here on the panel this afternoon to basically go down deeper into that all-important subject, as I said before, in terms of the need for agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, as well, we have another formidable guest among us here this afternoon, and that is Brother Sinclair Leacock from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That is one of the sister islands in that chain in the region. And so just like I did with Mr. Carbon, let me just go right about now without further ado that is, and read a short bio of Mr. Leacock, and then I will ask him for his opening remarks before we get the conversation really started. It says, Major Sinclair Leacock is a senior statesman and politician from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Major is currently the representative, for the constituency of Central Kingston and an opposition member in the House of Assembly. Major Leacock has a background in law, accounts, management studies, and business. He specialized in the field of management, achieving his first degree in management studies, as well as a master's in business administration from the University of the West Indies. He is also a fellow of the Chartered Management Institute of the United Kingdom. Major Leacock is a Justice of Peace, a main contributor as well to the development of St. Vincent Coast Guard Service, president of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Football Association, and commandant of the Cadet Force and Auxiliary Police Force. Major also worked at the St. Vincent Electricity Services Limited. Mr. Sinclair, also a former opposition senator, Leacock won the Central Kingston seat for the New Democratic Party in 2010, 2015, and again in 2020. He has won several awards based on his meritorious service and contributions to the development of the Football Association, Cadet Service, and president of the Employers Federation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Ladies and gentlemen in the listening audience, I now physically present to you and have Mr. Leacock open up his mic so that he can say his opening remarks. Mr. Leacock, good afternoon to you, sir, and a very special meeting to you.
Well, it's a great pleasure for me to be here with you, this distinguished panel, Lofty, Paula, Peter.
Yep.
And I'm glad you had Peter facing the shine, because clearly he's folk line and snake and agriculturist. And I'm not going to go there. So he has to be the opening bats, and he's done that. In St. Vincent, most people refer to me as Major. So from here on, if we could remember that short word, you would forget the Mr. Sinclair and the Leacock, and just the Major, because that is in fact the brand. But other than that, I'm pretty much the regular Caribbean guy that you meet, who has been privileged to have had good opportunities and to be able to grasp them. I need to say as well, because you're introducing me to be an agricultural spokesperson this evening, and when I can do that well, there's some guys in my party a little younger than I am who can do that even better than I can. So I'm yielding to them, as they would say in America. My Senator Bruce, who is a lawyer himself, is currently our agricultural spokesperson. And alongside him is a former vice president like myself, Mr. Patel, who lost his seat by 1 vote in the last election.
Wow.
So normally they would be our spokesperson in agriculture. So that's my disclaimer, so I don't have to be accountable to them and beyond this, you know. And then you also introduced me as deputy political leader. Well, very many people think so. But in fact, there are 2 vice presidents in the party. I just happen to be there for the last 20 years, but a youngster who is also now on the block. So he has as much good claim to say that I could be too, you know. So I just want to make sure that it's for whomsoever, you know. I don't consume myself with titles and office.
Good.
But the subject, as your Calypso says a while ago, is an extremely important one. I think that it's often regrettable that we don't hold on to fundamental principles, that is to build our economies on that which we have and can control. And that which speaks to our own food security. And it's an area in which we don't have to be reinventing the wheel. And I think it's really very unfortunate in our Caribbean societies, particularly those of us in the windwards, as against the wider OECS body, who have for years had experience, benefit, privilege, and success in agriculture that we haven't capitalized more. And so I believe I would be at one with my friend, just found friend, and I'm going to hold on to him, Peter, that
Yep.
we have a correct balance between agriculture and other forms of revenue earnings. I don't necessarily want to put ourselves into a competition between agriculture and tourism, but I believe to the extent that we can twin them and that we can integrate them, and that we see agriculture as having good feeder bands and capitalizing on any tourism opportunity, then we get an even bigger bang for the buck. But I insist that largely because of the retention value, we should be doing much more with agriculture, and we should be further ahead now, especially in the value-added phase that agriculture permits. So I say that to open, and then we will get deep into the subject matter.
Yes, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Leacock, for your opening, well, Major, as you said, for your opening statement, as it were.
There you go, and it's Major that wins the election. Huh? So remember that.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much. Much obliged indeed. But
Yes,
gentlemen, the subject matter on the scrutiny this afternoon, as it were, is all about agriculture and the need for it. Not just in Dominica, not just in St. Vincent, not just in the region in which we live, but throughout the world, as it were. Mr. Carbon, you, as you said, in your short bio, your experience in that field is vast. You were the Minister of Agriculture. First question to you, sir, as we get things cracking here this afternoon. How important is agriculture to any people?
Okay, I'll first start and say no farmer, no food.
Okay.
And we know man can't survive without food. So food is one of the greatest need for man. Food, clothing, and shelter, food coming first. So that's a given. And as Mr. Leacock said, we're not in competition, we're supposed to be cooperating. If you go back in the history of the Windward Islands, you know that wind ban, which was the collective production of ban and exporting of bananas by Windward Islands, it can be named as the most successful integrated organization in the Windward Islands. For years, it provided services to support the industry in every island, and we go out in the international community as one. So it can work. Now, let me say that, Lofty, agriculture is the culture of Dominica. If you look from way back, even from the Caribs, they depend on agriculture for their food. But as we wanted more need, as needs come, we had to kind of improve on our subsistence way of farming and bring in the new technology, the new crops, the new marketing systems to make us competitive. And you do that by first training technicians. That's why they trained me, Dominica trained me, and the technicians will train the farmers. So then we can have a better product and be more efficient on the farm. But I can say we also have to build institutions, because without strong institutions, strong companies, as we call it, it's very difficult for us, because we have small farmers and we have to be able to get them collectively to produce so that we can have the benefit of an estate. So all the farmers together is like being managed by one estate, because that's what the competition is. So it's a lot of work, but we have done it. We did it with farmers who hardly have education. Today, almost everybody went to secondary school and college. Now we have maybe threefold opportunity to be more efficient in what we did in the past. So agriculture, I said, with no agriculture, no food, no farmers, no food. So that have to be crucial for any government system in our region. And especially now that we start seeing, because of the turbulence in the world, people going to start to look at inside. So we depend a lot on imports. We'll find first it'll be very expensive, and second, it might not be available. Whereas we are able, Dominica used to be maybe 90% food sufficient in the past. And we were stronger, or people live longer at that time.
Yes, indeed. Yes, very, very, very correct, Mr. Carbon, in that when you hear the stories of a lot of our elderlies in their 90s, approaching 100-year-olds, that is, and they tell you about the type of food that they ate, agriculture, that sector played a very, very important role in their life, and some of them still play in that very important that sector as well, although up in years at this time. Major, we know St. Vincent and the Grenadines in terms of their mainstay. Tourism have been around with you guys But one of the things that have not been part and parcel of your economy in terms of its economic growth at that is a program called the CBI program. How have you guys been doing it in terms of staying away from what is now called the be it all and end it all of some of our countries in the region, that is the CBI program? How have you guys in St. Vincent and the Grenadines have done it and still doing it in terms of not being part and parcel of that program, and you guys continue to sustain yourselves?
Well, on that specific question with respect to the CBI, which is itself now in danger, we in the New Democratic Party have held for nearly 20 years a different position for the governing regime. And we thought that the CBI would have been an important contributor to budgetary support in our economies. So the fact that we have not had it and it has been opposed by the government does not necessarily mean that St. Vincent has been better off for it. What one has to be mindful of is that even going back to bananas, if we had from the 50s all the way up to the 20s, when we up to the year 2000 when we lost preferential status, nearly 50 years or so, is that nothing lasts forever. And bananas perhaps was the longest run we had with any specific industry. So if indeed one had 20 years, 25 years, 30 years of a windfall in which you are earning 100 plus, some cases $200 million per year, it counts for something. What would have mattered at the end of the day would have been the quality of the investment you made with that income stream and that earnings. And we still will be supportive of OECS member states that want to make a claim and a call to see how much we could prolong the life of the CBI. And we are not afraid to roll up our sleeves and to be at variance with the governing regime who objects to it. We do not say that one should put the proceeds of the capital of the CBI on the recurrent side of your budget. That's always a danger when you can't pay for your wages and pay yourself through. But I don't see any terrible ill in having it as a part of your capital programs for your budget support, and I would support that. But permit me to make a comment on Peter's point about where we are now. I agree with him with his context that the current Russian-Ukraine situation will bring home forcefully the importance of food and agriculture. It is bad enough if the price of agriculture and of food is high and almost unaffordable, but it will be certainly worse if you can't get it at all. And many of us would have learned and heard the stories of our grandparents, and even before that, of the World War II sessions when things were very hard in the Caribbean regions, and people had to be creative and innovative in the way that they can feed themselves. So I think it's a plus for any society that is in a position to feed itself. And agriculture, from my experience, is one of the things to which we should pay even more careful attention to. I took a quick look at our current state of affairs here before I came onto your program. In the current budget of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the recurrent account for agriculture is 3%. It is also 3% for tourism on the recurrent side. But if you look through the list of expenditure, there are a range of things that in our economies that are ahead of agriculture and or tourism in terms of the expenditure. Well, my view is that that is sort of like having the cat before the horse, because if you can't generate economic income and sustain income, how do you pay for all these other services that the society needs? And my view would be to make sure that you have your generating portfolios, which agricultural should be a principal one, be receiving a lot of investment. As it is in St. Vincent today, agriculture is as low as 5% to the GDP. That's not good. We were in the area of 20% or thereabout in the glory days of bananas. And there's no good reason why we can't get our agricultural outputs up. And so I am known in St. Vincent for the statement: how does a society address a problem when on the one hand, you have idle lands, and Dominica has a lot of that and lots more than St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But at the same time that you have idle lands, you also have idle hands. And I've always been advocating that we must put the idle hands to the lands and address what is fundamentally part of our economic dilemma, the need for increased production. And much of that should be centered around agriculture. And if you get that right, it also speaks to the all-important question that I'm sure that Peter will agree, the foreign exchange dilemma that we have and the balance of trade issues that we have. Where literally speaking, we are importing almost everything that we want to eat now, when we could save lots of that by doing it for ourselves.
Yes, Major, I thank you very much, bro, for your comment, read the question posed to you. During the conversation, during your statement, rather, I got the impression from you, and I am guided by you if I'm wrong, if that impression that I got from you is wrong. I got the impression from you that though you guys have not been part and parcel of that program in the region called the CBI or CIP program, that you guys in the opposition circles or opposition forces wouldn't mind have been part of parcel of that program. Am I wrong or right?
You're right. In fact, we have advocated for its continuance.
Okay, so based on where the CBI program is now, as we speak, in terms of the news that we heard coming out of the UK and the US, really clamping down, as it were, how would you guys have rolled out or doled out that program to the benefit of St. Vincent and the Grenadines people, and not be in that same loop or that same lump whereby that clamping down is concerned? Would you guys have done anything differently in terms of the management of that program?
Well, without naming any particular country, as I've been saying, you have always to make sure that you get your basics right. In the same way that we speak of being able to feed ourselves, you have to be able to demonstrate that you can carry yourselves. And so on the recurrent side of one's budget of the economy, where you pay for your salaries and wages and your pensions and your goods and services to keep the country going, I don't think that's the proper place to locate earnings from the Citizens by Investment Program. I think that is still the responsibility of what you earn through your the various forms of taxation purposes that you have, and from your non-tax revenue sources. And if you had other sovereign wealth situation, that's fine. But I don't see anything that's wrong with having those monies coming to you under capital programs. And by nature, capital means you're dealing with your long-term investments, where you are addressing important issues of infrastructure. We could also have more of that. Airport development, for example, comes to mind. Road infrastructure, new roads to lead and to open up agricultural lands and facilities, to facilitate expenditure, let's say, for important apprenticeship programs that we can improve and enhance the productive capacity of a lot of our young men and women who need second chances to do more within societies. As Peter hinted to, helping to strengthen and develop some of our institutions in particular. And let's tie this in with agriculture now. Making access to funding and resources available for farmers. Because that's often one of the dilemmas that our farm communities face. That is, the banks traditionally have been risk averse to lending people for agricultural activity. If a bank is lending a person money to go into a tourism project, the banker physically can see a structure, maybe a hotel, 20 rooms, 40 rooms, 50 rooms, and he believes that if things went bad, he can at least have the asset as a part of his or her recovery. He doesn't have the same confidence if a person was on the 4 or 5 acres of land and he had agricultural produce in the land. He doesn't feel he has something tangible to hold on to. So there has to be supporting structures that allows and encourages our farmers. And then maybe other important areas, because Peter, I'm told, is a market and export. One of the big challenges that the farmers always face is market guarantees. Whenever we have had Caribbean societies so organized that the farmers are pretty assured that they will get their produce sold, and the best case, of course, would be our banana experiences. But then we have the benefit of knowing that they go forward with confidence. And so the Caribbean finds itself today that too many of its best brains, best talent, and young energies are away from agriculture, in some cases idle, and in other cases, in quest of something that really does not take care either of their personal short-term development or that of the state as a whole. And so therefore, I'm really suggesting if we could find modalities and mechanisms that proceed from programs such as like the CBI strengthens and enhances the pillars. And I make the claim for agriculture in that regard, can stand on, then we are ahead of the curve.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Major, for those other comments that you just placed on the table. Really, your question, your position about the, looking at the CBI as part of capital, but not just the daily runnings of your country. So thank you for that. Peter, let me ask you just a follow-up though, as to where Major left off. You know Dominica very well. Do you think that although the program, the CBI program, Peter, is under some pressure now, do you think that much more would have been done with some of these generated funds from the CBI should have gone into agriculture?
Well, let me say, Lofty, that the CBI had one of the most negative force for Dominica in the last 20 years. What the CBI did, it got the government to be lazy. They have not initiated any programs that would stimulate the economy for the people in Dominica, because they were able to pay their way, sustain themselves in office by just spending easy money. It's so easy, Lofty, that the government not even have to sell a pass for themselves, They list that out, they give that out to agents. So what is the government doing? Nothing. They just sit back, whatever the agents bring, they use it and they share it. So that has resulted in lack of investment in any tax generating activity that the government would have to depend on to sustain the government. So the people who have money to spend, they are getting taxes, but they can sustain themselves with CBI. So that is one of the negative issue of CBI. But love to remember, CBI was initiated by the Dominica Freedom Party. It was initiated and the money went to some extra account to build the Lai River project, if you remember. But while we were in government, we recognized that that is a resource, an asset we have. The passport is a Dominica asset, like land and everything else we have, that could generate funds for investment in Dominica. So we had a change in the program to allow funding to come to the Treasury of Dominica. And we have examples of the kind of projects that came from that 4-year period, or 2 years, I think it lasted, where we had the Jungle Bay, Red Rock, and a few more projects that benefited from that. But that money went directly into what was already established in Dominica-led projects. But so we can say that the CBI transformed Dominica. In Dominica, we used to say, freeness is worriness, and everybody was trying to earn something. Some way, somehow, somebody tried to earn a living. With the free money, it brings a lot of worriness for people. And I'm afraid if we lose that income, it will take a lot to wake up our people to know that they have to go out and use their talent, use their skills to generate wealth. So I think it has been negative for Dominica, not because of the program itself, but because of how it was managed in Dominica.
The application.
The application. Yep.
Yeah. But the question still stands, Peter. Do you think that the amount of monies that have been generated from that program over the years, especially during the reigns of this incumbent party, that much more of those funds could have gone into agriculture so that we could be reaping some better yields today?
Well, Lofty, let me say, right, money is not the answer to any success of a program. The program will be well thought of, have good objectives, and you must have the human resource to manage it. This government have been throwing money to different things. Oh, we put money in agriculture. But if you put money in agriculture, unless you have targets, you have a goal, you have the resources from farm to market, then it's wasted. It's like more money down the drain. So money is not really the issue, because if you have a good program, you'll find the money. And as I said that, a lot of people like to make excuse for the banana industry. I mean, a child of bananas. The banana industry had a secured market in the British market. When the British joined the European Union, then the market opened to European Union. So we have all of Europe, but the competition was tight. What we did at the time, I was in government, we went and we negotiated with the European Union to supply the capital funds that would fund projects we had to sustain, and not even sustain, but maximize the banana industry. And every island had their own program. In Dominica, we had program for irrigation, farm investment, access road, institutional support. $96 million that was approved for use in 2000. We also took action and we purchased the geese banana business, both the shipping and the marketing. So we had the basis for not only sustaining, but expanding the banana industry. Because now we have all the right mill rooms in England, we had the shipping, and if the governments had go in and implement those programs, then the industry will not be bringing $10 million in the windwards, it will be bringing $25 and $30 million. Because we had everything it takes to expand, but you needed the work, you need the personnel to lead that transformation. Because every threat, there are opportunities. It's management's job to look for the opportunities. And at the time, we saw the opportunities, we made the investment, but there was no follow-up on it.
Well, on our side, with respect to bananas, we do not know in the New Democratic Party contend that we necessarily could get back to where we were 20 years ago. But at the same time, we do not believe that we should put our hands in the air and abandon any prospect of future potential for bananas. We believe if you do it right, that there's still a room for bananas within our economies, not just as a foreign exchange owner and part of your food security. But as you would know even more than me, Peter, that banana as an industry perhaps was one of the most pervasive kind of sector, where you got a lot of spread. Everybody benefited from banana cultivation. The small man, the middle man, the big man. I mean, and then there's constant turnover of money. So there's not just an infusion into the economy, but there's a constant flow of cash in the economy over a wide range of sectors within the economy. And that can happen. The thing is, as part of our agricultural development, where we are here and now in the Caribbean, I think we have not taken benefit of the lessons of the past, but we also not now keeping current with what is the trends. Agriculture today has to be seriously focused and directed at the value added potential of the sector. And not just that, but also the linkages that it has with tourism and other sectors. And in that regard, we need and are not doing enough of the niche market opportunity that it provides. Let's be specific. Where you in America there, look how important organic farming is to important sectors of the economy. So that's not necessarily a volume question, because we can't supply America or even one state of America with all its requirements in some of what we're talking about. But we can find niche markets that is compatible with our own capacities. And organic farming is one of those. There's also the greater potential in agriculture that we're not doing, where we are looking for the relationship of some of our agricultural potential with some other related industries, value-added industries, pharmaceutics and healthcare and so forth. Source up the fruit and its leaves, for example. Turmeric, ginger, and saffron, you know, that can be related to health foods sector, you know. A lot of other agricultural produce we can do to flavors, coconut, that you can add to ice cream, or to other food flavors, you know, and you have some passion fruit. Well, all of the soft fruits that we have. And when you look at it, and I'll pause here, our government, for example, now takes $135 million to invest into a Marriott chain. Again, I'm not comparing ourselves in agriculture and tourism necessarily. Or you take $90 million of the NIS, National Insurance Scheme monies to put into another hotel. And then you take another chunk of money put into another hotel chain. When would the governments decide that, look, investing $50 million US into a substantial processing plant in one or other Caribbean countries for a particular agricultural commodity, so that we not only have the primary supply, but we have the processed products coming out of that, so that we have our young men and women going into a plant and knowing that they are in something that can be sustained. You don't see that willingness to take that risk and to position agriculturists and farmers in the same way that you want to do with people who have the more glorified portfolio of tourism. And I make that case over and over, and we should do it.
Yeah, indeed, Major, you touch on a number of situations that we will come back to in just a while in terms of the other aspects of agriculture related products. But we have a woman among us, and I know there are a number of women farmers, a lot of women who are in the agricultural business. So it's my pleasure now to say again, good afternoon to Paula, so that she can give her piece as to the conversation that we're having here, agriculture. Paula, yes, good afternoon again.
Yes, Leslie, thank you very much. Sitting here and listening to Mr. Carbon and also to Mr. St. Clair. Mr. Carbon, I remember you very well while you actually was the Minister of Agriculture. And you spoke about the banana industry. And I know this government been there for over 20 years, and they have not done anything to sustain the banana industry. And when we speak about agriculture, it's not only about bananas, because there's a number of things that fall under agriculture. Listening to Mr. St. Clair, and he spoke about the capital program, long-term investments. And yes, the CBI program, I believe this is one of the industries that the CBI program should have invested into agriculture. We have a lot of women farmers, and I'm asking this afternoon, how can technology assist our farmers? And I, being a woman, sitting here and listening to this talk about agriculture, how can we get more women and young farmers involved in agriculture? Because very soon, or maybe we have already seen an increase in fertilizer. And we know that a lot of our farmers will actually turn to produce organic vegetables and everything that is organic that has to do, that falls under agriculture. So I'm asking this afternoon, how can technology assist our farmers? How can we get more women involved, especially young women involved in agriculture?
Okay, that's a lot of, you put together. If I were to go, I would say straight off, we in the Windward Islands have great opportunity to reignite commercial agriculture. I think Simmons is still doing a lot of hog storing and so, but that is not where you grow an industry. I mean, I've seen the industry in Florida grow. When I started with them, they were $90 billion. Now it's approaching 140 billion in just a few years. Because of not only investment, but the human resource, the research support, and the education programs they have. But let me say, if we remember, agriculture produce was being sold in street markets. It's about 20, 25 years ago, we saw supermarkets get into the business, and now 80% of fresh produce is being sold at supermarket. This has provided a great opportunity for us as islanders, because rather than going in the market, not knowing who your customers are, not knowing what you will sell, you can now go and negotiate with a supermarket team, a brand, and you organize to have a container, 2 container loads a week, 2-3 week, and then you go in and you organize for the production. So as we say now, I said a lot of people now want to experiment with exotic plants. I mean, you could find everything in the supermarket here: breadnut, breadfruit, yams, dashing, whatever you want, you can find in the supermarket. You could find it fresh, like we have from the farm. You could have it processed, like frozen, mainly frozen. Go in this, open the supermarket, and you could find your dashing and whatever. So it's left to us now to organize a production marketing system locally. I would prefer on a Windward Island level, organize a brand like we had on the banana industry. We had a brand name. It was Windward Island Bananas. And so we have a brand. We have a business organization that's responsible for the investment and ensuring the standards and whatever. And they can negotiate markets, contracts, and then we can supply the international community. And I said the opportunities are there, but it takes a lot of work. I said I had the experience of doing fruit and vegetable marketing in the UK. I know we can do it. We have a commitment to send a container load. We now have to get the farmers organized, give them the necessary supply they need so that they can produce on a staggering system that we know that every week we can get what we want. So that is hard work, but it was done. As you remember, Lofty, we were able to move non-banana crop exports in Dominica from $12 million to almost $30 million in 4 years. The way we did it, we went out, we find a market, we organized the production, and we supplied the market directly. We sent container loads of dashing and yams and ginger because we were able to organize the market. Farmers knew the market was there. We get them contracted. They went out and produced. And Paula, just to, before I leave, answer a question. Everybody will run into agriculture if there's money to be made in agriculture. I saw people, teachers left teaching, policemen left the police force, and businessmen went and did agriculture while we were in office because there was money to be made, and you saw businessmen, what they business in Roseau, start buying land and start farming. So since there's money to be made, there's an industry that allows opportunities. Man, woman, and child will find a way to go out and produce.
Yes.
What's that for you?
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. Major, yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, if I wasn't looking at Peter directly, I would have said you're stealing my notes, and I don't think he's that kind of individual. So
Remember, he was a minister of agriculture.
And I'm in total agreement with all that he has said. Save and except for the fact that and I'll come back to Paula's concern specifically, and if I don't, remind me, he mentioned 1 or 2 things that are important in the exercise that he spoke about so eloquently. One is branding. I think we need to understand that the world has moved on. And to get into any serious form of marketing activity with respect to agriculture, you have to pay attention to brand management. So just as Windward Island Bananas had a name at a particular time, and the housewife will go to the supermarkets to look for that brand, it's the same way we have to be able to develop a brand, either at the island level, but preferably, and here now, you will excuse me, to the Windward Islands. I say that because we have had historical relationship in that regard when we were in the geese arrangements. Because one of the things that made bananas successful then was that we banded ourselves together so that we understood that we could address the volume question. That is what Dominica or St. Lucia or St. Vincent couldn't do by itself, that collectively we could achieve. So we still have to recognize that there's an argument for some form of regionalization or coming together to address the volume questions, because more than likely, if a purchaser in North America or any other part of the diaspora wants continuity with respect to his or her customers in their chain of activities.
Yep.
So we have to address that. But he inferred, and quite correctly so as well, but when we had bananas, there were also some knock-on effects. We had guaranteed or reliable shipping arrangements, so that a lot of our agricultural produce could have piggybacked on bananas. So we're going into England. Yes, bananas will fill the ships, but we could get in our gingers, our coconut, and what other produce to go along with bananas to get to that destination.
Yep.
So we still have to have that transport arrangement in place. And this is something that Jadeo, in his previous attention in the region, has spoken to, the need for Ghana, which by itself could be a regional big basket, to have a relationship with some of the smaller Caribbean countries in which we could look at this together, so that you don't get the sense, for example, Peter, that our agricultural ministers will meet at one of the forums to say, look, there's a potential for source up. I'm just picking the one.
Yes.
But Grenada alone can't do all of the source of supplies to a particular buyer in Florida. St. Vincent, Grenada, Dominica, how many farmers do you have that can commit X number of acres of land to source up? You heard a year or two ago, for example, in Jamaica, one of the big chains, I think was the Grace Candy of one of them, said that they wanted to have expansion in yam production because Jamaica by itself could not do all of the yam produce. And then you heard a similar statement that they were going to go big in turmeric. Well, if we're going to go into turmeric, which may be a good potential, then it's just not a Jamaican opportunity. It's for other Caribbean countries can relate to that. And so what we have to understand in that regard, and again, Peter is the marketing man, in too many instances in some of our Caribbean countries, St. Vincent included, we tended to be big fishes in small ponds. A person can sell a 10 case or 20 case or 50 cases through a local food chain in our parts. What we need to become are small fishes or small fish in big ponds. That is, we now could address ourselves to some international brand or label in which we are doing the X number of containers, 20 or 40 foot or whatever it is, on a weekly basis by this shipping line or that agency, whatever it is, to the international markets, because it can't simply be agriculture for agriculture's sake. It has to be also a commodity quite apart from feeding ourselves that is earning foreign exchange, because the foreign exchange question is also critical to the survival of our economies. There was a time when it was us in the Windward Islands that contributed to the foreign exchange and the strength of the central bank by our agricultural inputs, whereas our brothers and sisters in the north made their contribution to their dependence on tourism. Unfortunately for us then, tourism and agriculture didn't go sour at the same time, so one always had the other. But we have to look at the whole integrated process and decide how we can revisit these things, make the investments, the financial investments, and sustain them by institutions and systems that provide for continuity and for good management. Paula, you're quite right. Women are special. I don't know what's the case in Dominica, but I know in St. Vincent, and it's probably the case in other Caribbean islands, the women are the dominant farmers. And where they are not the dominant farmers, they're the dominant managers of the monies of their male farmers. Because women are want to be extremely good economists. And so they also, there's special opportunities for them, not that I'm putting them aside. Horticulture, for example, is something that we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of, you know? And those are high earning areas of investment.
Yes, yes, indeed. But Mr. Major, what order then? And that question comes on the backdrop of, and just before I go there, those of you on the live, you can please enter your question, comment, suggestion based on how you're getting the conversation that is happening this afternoon. And again, we thank each and every one of you for tuning in. But you too, cherish you and you're part and parcel of the conversation. So we'll sure welcome your question, comments, and we'll ask the two guests that is here this afternoon so that they could answer up your questions as well. But maybe just before we drift a little away, you mentioned some of the crops, other crops like turmeric, whatever it is. Can you mention
Ginger.
some? Yes, ginger. Can you just go a little more detail as to some of the other crops in your neck of the wood that you guys capitalize on to have some kind of income coming in St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Well, root crops have always been a big thing for us in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. With now a lot of our farmers sell to what we call traffickers. Some people call them higglers, some call them hucksters, where we go into the market for in Trinidad and Tobago. Also we sell dasheen, yam, tanya, edo, coconut, limes, nutmeg to far less extent. We'll be having within recent times, and I wouldn't elevate this beyond what it is. We'll be looking at selling cattle to Grenada, for example, and that's a very contestable and debatable issue whether we should be doing that or whether we should be doing like Grenada itself, doing their own slaughtering and selling prized meats to North America. Then you have passion fruit and several other fast fruits. In fact, St. Vincent had the embarrassing situation. Sometimes we send mangoes to Trinidad and import red mangoes back to St. Vincent, where they put them in some dye and some sweetening and take them.
Yeah. And what was a very fascinating case, which I remember off my head as we speak, is that just after you guys' very unfortunate situation with the volcano,
Yeah.
that soon thereafter you guys were exporting.
Well, that's true, and but not at the pre-volcano levels. But the thing is, the volcano is both curse and blessing, because the volcanic ash does in fertilizing the land, and we found that a lot of people, you see St. Vincent now is almost going back to a level of greenery as if we didn't have an eruption, because that volcanic soil is being to blend into the into the soil, but it still doesn't negate the fact that farmers perform on the basis of confidence, and once a farmer is satisfied that he or she can have the produce sold and at a price that is worth the effort, they'll invest the time and the energies. And so we have to be able to give them those kinds of assurances, those kind of market guarantees that it is worth the effort. And when we come back, you see agriculture and its potential has many other facets. Why are young people, for example, not necessarily looking at agriculture as a first choice? What sectors of people go into agriculture in the Caribbean? In Indian communities in Trinidad and Tobago or in Guyana, it's almost an automatic place of opportunity. In our communities, all guys much prefer to go to what I call the umbilical cord, to put on the tie around the neck and stay as far from agriculture as possible because of its stigma, or it's not as value attractive as other things. And therefore, we have to be able to find how we would redirect them. And if there's good opportunity to make money and the financial systems support it, then we begin to get a fit.
Thank you. You just before you come in, Peter, you mentioned the word redirecting. For example, if you guys, or when you guys, let me use that word in a more positive context. When you guys come into government, Mr. Major, what are some of the steps that you guys will be taking to kind of enhance that whole agricultural sector in St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Lofty. I'm beginning to feel now that we can speak for an additional hour, and I'm prepared to send you a membership card if you ask me that same question again. and Central Kingston residency to boot. You don't have to reach Poland.
Okay.
But the former head of the party, Anna Muses, who I believe would be familiar to Peter because he was a banana guru at the time.
Well, I did very, very good.
They had a lot of things work that they did in bananas, and Anna has always argued that we need to have a development bank with a bias to agricultural investment. And then we also have to have, with respect to agriculture, a fair amount of risk taking and credit guarantee schemes to assist and hold the farmers as they're taking risks and going along. And therefore, you need a financial mechanism that would not see that the next thing you must name and shame them by having the house advertised in the papers or repossessing them for having taken agricultural risks, but that there'll be a much more willingness to have hand-holding along the chain and to have, again, agricultural defense and all the support, research and development institutes, marketing, so they're doing the hard work. Even the notion of moving away from some of our foreign service guys being concentrated in some matters which are of less immediate importance than us, and making sure that they're directed more to trade activities, whether they're in London or in Toronto, in the United States or in Florida. That is their businesses to get our economies to be export driven. And for our economies to be export driven, we have to find those markets. You know, Peter, Lofty, Paula, one of the things we have just failed to do in the region, you know, is that all over the world, we have Caribbean people in some of the best institutions, research institutions, universities, corporate entities, and we're not setting them to work for and on behalf of their beloved country which they have left behind. You take, I mean, it might be a broad brush. But let's take a world company like Coca-Cola, who does health drinks for the athletes, Gatorade or one of those things. When you read one of those labels, a lot of it is artificial flavors. What if we in the Caribbean, for example, could log on to one of those brands, but the content of the health drink now moves away from an artificial or flavored drink to a genuine vitamin enriched product because it is mango driven, passion fruit driven, golden apple driven. What are fruits? Because I don't know if all the fruits names we have in Civic are the same as yours, but the inputs into the product lines are now much closer to natural foods than artificial flavors. Have we explored those things?
Let me just comment on that.
That's a good point. That's a very, very succinct point, Brother Major.
If you go on the port in Dominica, you might still find equipment that investor brought in to put a flavored water plant in Layu Park. We had negotiated that he wanted to use the fruits to flavor water to put on the market. And it fell through after we left office. Everything was done, the survey, the water quality test, everything. And then the guy came down, I think the factory was on the port when we left office, and nothing ever happened after that. That's a good example, but there are a lot of examples. The important thing, we can produce everything, and people believe you just go out and produce and see if you sell. But we know that is subsistence. You have to approach the thing like a business. You find a market, you negotiate a price, you give your delivery time, you organize your production to meet that. To organize your production, you know what you need. You need research, you need transportation, you need standardization, because you have to be able to give them what you say you're giving them. So somebody has to do the analysis of the food and what time to harvest, and everything have to be done to make sure that that product is what you say you have. So it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of benefit. In the process, what we do, we provide job opportunities for all the people we say we train at universities and colleges. Now they go back home, they can't find a job, they end up leaving and going back to North America or somewhere else. Whereas if you have those industries, you can employ biologists, you can employ chemists, you can employ data processing people on computers, all the technical people we have in the region can find jobs. Because some people believe that agriculture is just planting and selling, but 90% of the human resource for agriculture is supportive of the sector. So you have to be able to test your soils. to make sure you. So rather than us putting fertilizer, 50 years ago, we used to test our soil every 6 months to find out the nutrients level. And based on that, we change the fertilizer. Farmers in Dominica remember they had 10, 10, 10, then 12, 12, 15, then they changed 12, 17. It's because we test the soil regularly, because we had our lab in St. Lucia, at Winban, and we're able to test for diseases, check diseases, scout for disease. So we'll go out before you have leaf spot, the field officer will go out and scout the fields. So, okay, we need to spray now because before the disease come. So we had leaf spot assessment every 2 weeks. People wouldn't know that, but that we did 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. We used to take survey for borers to know what level of borers we have, survey for nematodes, what kind of nematodes we have. So all those technical support have to be there for the farmers to make them more efficient. The second thing, we have to modernize our agriculture. I mean, things like transportation on the farm. You have ATVs. ATVs now can manage the hills and valleys we have very easily. So all we have to do is make tracks and get a system of giving some subsidies for farmers to buy the ATVs, four-wheel drive ATVs, that they don't have to really go up, walking 200 yards with a load on their head. You know, I mean, geese industry did that 50 years ago on their estate. You know, irrigation is crucial because a plant is 90% water. What we have a rain-fed agriculture. When rain falling, the plants have enough water. When sunshine for 2 days, all the plant doing is conserve water for itself. It doesn't produce at that time. So we want continuous supply of water so that the plants can give maximum return. We want to make sure we have quality planting material. So we must have a regulatory system to regulate where you get the plants from. So I might not pick up an old plant and put in there. And I mean, our farmers know that with cattle. When they have a cattle, they make sure they look for the biggest bull to cross their cow. So the same thing over plants. So there's a lot of technical issues that we have to pay attention to if we want to be able to compete internationally and have real commercial agriculture. And we did it in the past. I said, we have a model, it worked for us, we allow it to fall, but the model, we go back to the model. Have our farmers registered, have an institution where they keep their records, that supply them with their support, their input supply, their disease control. So a lot of things we can do collectively on the island and collectively in the windwards that can make us very competitive in the international market.
Well,
yes.
I think Peter and myself, we are saying the same thing, but Civic, except I want to make the point. The model that Peter spoke about, and for which he is correct, emanated from when our agriculture was fundamentally driven by plantation economies. We're still plantation economies, but it was when we came off of that period in which a single person owned very large amounts of land initially. And so you saw the whole national and regional infrastructure was built around that. So if you had bananas or you had sugar, you then had a deep water pier. You then had trucking systems. Yep. You have international agencies and marketing agencies to facilitate that investment. As we lose or lost the large plantation type agriculture and are being left more and more to the individual effort, the small farmer with a few, I know you not acres, but a sufficiency of land that he or she can make sense. There is an insufficient institutional support to assist him as a collective, you know.
Yep.
Bananas, you could have gone to the Banana Growers Association in a particular country and get an advance loan or for monies to carry about your activity. If you're in our route in St. Vincent, you could do the same thing. You had associations. In fact, St. Vincent bought a jet to fight in the Second World War out of our money. We donated that to the British government. Proudly so, that we could have done that. But now, our farmers are left on their own. And some of the things that Peter is talking about are already upon us. High fertilizer price, dilapidated irrigation system, no transport mechanism. Even though we used to transport, and I believe it's not much different to Dominican than it was in Civic. So when you were in Bananas, you had a particular type of truck that could accommodate produce and people. So I believe much of the transportation system is directed to people, and even less and less and less to the transportation of produce to the marketplace. And you know, and what preference would those financial institutions give to people who say they want to do those things? It is far easier still, Lofty, for you to get a loan at a commercial bank to import 100 cases of pepper sauce or guava jam and jelly or some other kind of foreign-made agricultural produce than it would be for you to get the same amount of money to plant the tomatoes or plant the guavas or plant whatever it is to produce the same content. So it goes back to the old cultural challenges that we have and so forth.
Yeah.
A farmer will go and he'll plant 10 yards of 10 pounds of tomato, and he'll sell the tomato and buy a bottle of ketchup to carry home. And the fisherman will sell all the fish that he caught and one by salt fish in the supermarket. And so on and so forth. A lot of cultural and other worries that we have to address.
True. Gentlemen, you wouldn't believe it, but we are supposed to be here for 2 hours, and already an hour and 10 minutes has already gone. Normally, after an hour, we normally take a break. You know, that break, we normally play some music in between there.
Dominic was always known for good fast bowlers. I mean, my period, they had the Shilling Fuzz and some other guys before them, you know, and when they didn't bowl fast, there's some wicked spinners too, you know.
Yes, indeed. So we're gonna take that much needed break now, give our guests let their voices rest a little bit for like 2-3 minutes. And then when we come back, we're gonna take some of your comments on the live, some of the questions and some of your suggestions on the live, and pose them to our guests so that they can answer to some of what you're asking or some of what you have been part of since 4 o'clock this afternoon. So we're gonna do that in just a bit, take a little break now. We'll be back in just a bit. Yes.
Let me walk, boy. Let me take a little walk.
Yes, do that, Peter. Yes.
Security is man's first priority, but nothing is more important than feeding the people, and it's agriculture that makes everything else possible. So as the whole economy comes to fall, so the response won't come at all. Then guess what? Jump high, jump low. We must go back side. Jump high, jump low. We must go back to the side.
All right, Dominicans. Yes, those of you listening, those of you watching, it's a pleasure to have you on board. This number, Soul Post did this one some times ago. He entitles this one Back to the Soil. Let me just give kudos now to my brother Soul Post for doing that all important one, sometimes back, basically reinforcing and reiterating the need for agriculture. Pat, Aaron, good afternoon to you, my brother, as well, for penning this one.
Security is man's first priority, but nothing is more important than feeding the people, and it's agriculture that makes everything else awesome. So how then it's agriculture country. My government looks down on the farming community and places its emphasis on the tourism industry. Don't they know everything needs the soil to survive. Without it, no industry can ever thrive. So we must embrace agriculture before we promote tourism. I say everything has its place, its time and its season. As the economy continues to fall, tourist boats will change the ports of call. Then guess what? Jump high, jump low. We must go back. Side, jump high, jump low. We must go back to the soil.
Yes, indeed, indeed. We must go back, people. We must go back to the soil, huh?
Sing. Wasting millions on elections, but no roads for the farmers to access their land. Here in the nature island, yeah. The agriculture ministry, bedrock of history. Today we have heard our backs on the land. The foolish man builds his house upon the sand. But there was a time when we were proud of our agricultural exports. Now we are ashamed, must be black market for passport. But we must embrace agriculture before we promote tourism. Listen, everything has its place, its time and its season. As the world economy continues to fall, soon the tourist won't come at all. Then guess what? Jump high, jump low. We must go back side. Jump high, jump low. We must go back to the soil.
Serious message in song. Yes, we must go back to the soil. That is the punchline in this number. We have been talking for the past hour and about 15 minutes with our brother from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Major, he just wants to support the Major. He goes by the name of Civic.
Yeah, that's the brand.
That's the brand right there. Yes,
That's the brand.
And also, yes, Major Leacock, he has been there with us for the past hour, and his contribution, I can tell you, he has been throwing everything in the boundary for 4 and 6 thus far in terms of what I threw at him. Mr. Peter Carbon, no stranger to Dominica, former Minister of Agriculture, and this gentleman, they have been doing a very formidable job thus far. Let me now, as we get back into the meat of things here, go back to some of your comments so that you can be part and parcel of all what is happening here. Let me see here the first comment, and gentlemen, please feel free to take note on some of the comments. Some of the comments so that let's take note of them so that you can please feel free to reply to any one of them that I read thus far. It says here, this one from Olivia Esprit. She's saying here, oh my God, which agricultural minister can give such information about agriculture in Dominica? All right. Kelly Christian is writing here, our farmers went to doing taxi, I guess, seeing that the poor state at which agriculture has come down to. Celia Gordon is writing here, what? Oh, well, Celia Gordon wrote that comment first, and I guess Olivia was responding. But the initial comment from Celia was, which agricultural minister can give such information about agriculture in Dominica in this way? And I guess she's giving some kudos to Mr. Peter Carbon here. I have to say congratulations to Mr. James. Actually, putting the right persons in the right ministries. That is why Dominica was successful back in the 90s under the United Workers' Party administration. You can see Mr. Peter Carbon still have a passion for his country and agriculture. Yes, Celia, thank you very much. Kelly saying here again, farming is a chain. Planter, selector, carriers to the port, the ship worker, then it goes over to the consumer. That is what Kelly Christian is adding here to the conversation in terms of comment. One goes by the name of Lady Gobet Minister says and writes, I hope that the box of rocks, I don't know who you call in the box of rocks, governments listening now, that the CBI well underwater is about to run dry. That is the comment here. Everlasting Peter, that person goes by the name of Everlasting Peter, saying, excellent program as usual. We are following from Calgary, Alberta in Canada. And Everlasting Peter, thank you very much as always. Another comment here coming in says, agriculture is from farm to the table, both locally and internationally. Let me see if I get some more comments coming in here. John Blanchard is writing here, we need to focus on agriculture again in Dominica. That was the lifeblood of the country in the 80s and 90s and in early 2000s. CBI is not sustainable. You can and will only sell so many passports, John is writing. He continues by saying, in agriculture, you can keep diversifying and keep our exports intact, hence having a consistent flow of revenue. Peter did an excellent job during his tenure as Minister of Agriculture. So thank you very much, Brother Blanchard, for that very succinct and on-point comment coming from you. Omar Monel is writing here and is asking a fundamental question to the guest here. He's asking, Mr. Monel is asking, does the panel think it's better to have a singular Caribbean export brand for our raw crops, similar to the banana industry, or should we sell individually to manufacturers? So guys, please take note of that question. And the last comment in the interest of time before I get back to the guest, Dave Bertrand is writing here, making a comment and he's saying, organic farming should be the way to go. There is a guaranteed market for such products. Gentlemen, there are many, many more comments such as this, but in the interest of time and getting back to you guys, I will stem it here for now. What are you guys' thoughts based on what you heard just thus far coming from the listening and viewing audience?
Well, I believe that we need to go back to the Windward Island Agricultural Organization. Regulated, put in there by law, and you have private sector and public sector coming together to form that institution. They can go in now and put the support system in place in terms of research, in terms of marketing, in terms of inputs, in terms of insurance, whatever that is required to support the industry, and we can build from there. But Lofty, something I would like to say is that we need, in order to get our food security, we need to have a system of distribution on the island. And I believe we need farmers market. In every region, we should have organized farmers market where we can get local produce prepared for supermarkets and for local restaurants, hotels, and for the population. There would have packaging and sorting and quality control so that the people can get the produce they want when they want it. And we need marketing officers that will be able to organize that. So it's a system, because you have produce in the country, but the supermarket can't depend on it. They don't know it is available. They want produce for their customers. They prefer to go and buy it where it is organized. So they come to Florida, they get a ton of tomatoes. They just have to order it because it's already come to the market, washed, packaged, and ready for export. So when they want tomatoes, they prefer to buy it here, whereas you might have tomatoes on the island. So unless you have a system of collecting what you have, first people must know you have it, be able to process it there, and make it available for the market. You'll have your farmers losing produce whereas people importing, which is what happened in Dominica. The other thing is substitution. I mean, look at things like sorrel. Sorrel can be grown easily in Dominica. We know sorrel is a photosensitive plant and it only flower during the short days. That's around December, January. But dry sorrel can last for the year. So if you have a system of producing sorrel, you have a system of drying it, then you could have sorrel throughout the year, rather than importing Kool-Aid and whatever, because sorrel has high antioxidants. It's like grapes. Grapes have high antioxidants. Sorrel is very healthy. We know that. But what have we done to take advantage of a crop like sorrel on the local market? We didn't increase sorrel for Christmas and everybody forgot sorrel again. You know, thing like yams. Let's say yams. We go in the store. We make macaroni and cheese. We know that yam pie is a signature high price dish in Dominica. Can we do research of getting the yam, drying it, crushing it, putting your cheese, putting whatever you need in it, and only put in a package, and all the customers need now, take a package, add water, and bake it. Can we do that? To me, that should somebody, food technologists, will be able to come and say what portion of yam you need from a portion of cheese, if you put the milk, whatever you put in it, dry it, have it in a bag that can stay on the shelf for months, and then people can just buy a bag of yam, crushed yam, add it to water, put in your oven, and then you have yam pie. So those kind of initiatives we have to do, but we must have the research activity, the lab support to get it done. So that's just examples, but we must look at our local market because, okay, for instance, in Dominica, we know the government giving allowances to elderly. Can they say, okay, we're giving you $400, but we take $100, buy local produce, and instead of giving you $300 where you're going to buy flour or you buy rice, you now can have $100 worth of plantain and yams, bananas and dashing coming to your home. You know, but so what you do? Give farmers some money because you can sell his produce, and two, you have giving the older people the food they accustomed, the food they love, the food that's not healthy. You know, so those kind of initiatives we have to start thinking, because as I said before, it's people that make things happen, and unless you come up with initiatives, you come up with ideas, you come up with projects, money can be flowing everywhere around you. You will not get nothing done. Which is what happened to Dominica government. They have money flowing everywhere, but they have no initiative, no projects, nothing.
Yes, indeed. Brother Major, Dave Bertrand made a comment and he talked about the need for organic products, organic agriculture. Do you see that? Do you see we having a niche for that and that can be exploited?
I have spoken about that several times in our parliament. And I've mounted exhibitions in our parliament by taking into the Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines a range of products that are produced in North America on the basis of what we grow in the Caribbean. And I've taken those same sorts of exhibitions before visiting IMF groups and other groups who have come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines to look into what sorts of relationships that we can do. So I'm in absolute agreement. And what he's talking about is a very specialized and very financially rich opportunity in America. The Trader Joe's of the world, for example. You go and this is serious business. I go to America and I visit a Trader Joe with my granddaughter. She was about the age of 4 or thereabout, where they were trying to do two things: sensitize the young children to how this is done, but begin to try to climatize them to the advantages of eating healthy foods. So organic foods makes a lot of sense to me. But I'm ready to vote for Peter. And if you want me to help to get him back into Dominica, I don't know. That would be my part, just to vote. Getting him back will be his responsibility. The thing is, he spoke about sorrel as an example. I remember many moons ago, perhaps over 30 years ago, for example, I went to Florida, Peter, for a food exhibition with the same soil. A gentleman by the name of Marcus de Freitas was the Minister of Agriculture and Civic and the Grenadines at the time.
I know him, yeah.
Right? And they used to be big in food exports as well in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They had their own export activity in Canada and North America. And in the sampling exercise, we had hundreds of people come into the Vincentian booth. And to a man, they were all impressed with the taste of sorrel and were willing to buy it if they can get it. There was just one little, it's not even a confusion, but a contribution to the whole exercise as to whether the sorrel should have been made as a beverage or whether the sorrel could have been better used as a tea. That is, if you could have got it in the way where you put it into like the tea a sachet.
Yep.
So you put it into the mug or the teacup and you add the hot water and you extract it, you know. But either way, it showed great potential for sorrel. I think the sorrel that is made in Trinidad by a business house that comes to a part, it's just simply a favorite sorrel. It's a highly popular drink. It has no natural vitamin content of the plant itself. But again, I'm with you. The potential for sorrel in North America and this is the thing that our marketing and our food technologists people have to work out, and our trade officials and our foreign affairs department. How do we do some of these things? But it's doable because I can see sorrel going as the berries, going as a tea sachet, or even having a relationship with a Hazandas or Ben and Jerry's or whoever the ice cream makers are. Those are the people who we have to find a way of getting our coconut flavored ice cream, or mango flavored ice cream, or passion fruit flavored ice cream, or ginger ice cream. Local here, they're doing a yam ice cream in St. Vincent, one of the local producers. But those are the sorts of work we have to do. And Peter is right that there are some things in our societies that are ideally suited for public-private sector partnerships to go from, because it needs a lot of capital outlay and it needs other inputs into it, because we have to address so many things of cost effectiveness and competitiveness. I float, for example, Peter and Lofty. Excuse the noise in the background of the dog. Why can't some of our state enterprises, electricity, water, or the port, take an interest in our export readiness so that we don't have to pay the upfront cost if we had a startup industry for the cost of the water inputs, because they will depend on the evidence downstream, or the electricity cost up downstream, or the port charges to get the products out. But facilitate us being able to get into the foreign markets. You have a rich experience in Dominica, and I trust I'm not putting my foot into my mouth. But I'm told when I've used to be on the electric circuit with the UWI, that you used to do, DCP used to do the local products from soap products. Isn't that so?
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
And they control a fair amount of business in Dominica. But look what happened when DCP partnered with Lever Brothers, and they began to be able to provide bar soaps and shampoos and have this large market on the cruise ships and the international chains, Hilton's and Holiday Inns and Marriotts, selling Lever soap in those places. Dominica by itself could not have done those market activities until they linked with an international market and under an international brand. Yep. You had the same experiences with RL Seal rum in Barbados, which was a big fish doing well in the Barbados marketplace. But million times over when they teamed up with Malibu to take the same rum into the international marketplaces and the diaspora, that they by themselves couldn't do it. So we have to look at all of these avenues and opportunities, and it calls for innovation and creativity. And that's why the initial formation that you had for this program of transformation is still a good word with respect to agricultural development and opportunities. We cannot have and achieve success in agriculture if we continue to do it the old way, even though there are elements of the old design that are still relevant today. We have to take that which was good and see that which we can add to it today to have a different approach to the sustainable market opportunity that agriculture can achieve.
True. Thank you very much for those points. Now I yield to Paula or to chime in here on some thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Ruthie.
Mhm.
Okay. My take on agriculture, especially for the youth. The youth see agriculture as an unattractive and not cool industry to get into. And I believe there's a number of reasons why the youth actually see agriculture as not something they should really put too much energy into. Here is my take. It is rather sad for a farmer to do all the hard work, and at the end of it, he cannot find a sustainable market for his produce. In some instances, the produce is left to rot on the farm. A lot of farmers have gotten discouraged because of the bad roads, the hard work, and very little sale. I can remember this administration speaking about two boats. One of them was too small, the other one was too big. Absolutely nothing has been done since. And the farmers sit back and they just say, what can I do? I'm still seeing some supermarkets importing, for example, like vegetables, tomatoes and carrots, even beets. And all of these things can be grown here in Dominica. I remember our passion fruit factory, the lime, the coconut factory, and all of this. I remember a gentleman actually exporting thyme to St. Martin every week. There's a lot of produce that is being grown here, and there is either no market or very little market. So this in itself, it discourages persons who really want to either get into agriculture or continue doing agriculture. Here's my take. There are government institutions who on a day-to-day basis, for example, the hospitals, the infirmaries, and these places, they use a lot of these things that are being grown here on the island. So to encourage some of the youths, my advice to the administration, allow these youths to grow the vegetables. And if this is the way that actually they can make some money, some of the government institutions should accept this produce from the youths. This would encourage some of them, because if they grow the tomatoes and other vegetables, they know they have a market for it. You go to the market on a Saturday about 2 o'clock and it look like about 7 o'clock in the morning. You have so much tomatoes, you have cucumbers, you have cabbages, carrots, and these people have to go back home with this. And some of them, at the end of maybe the end of the day, they have to do away with it. It's at a loss for them because they have purchased these seedlings and there's nothing that they can do with it at the end of the day. So I'm asking here, this is to Mr. Carbon particularly. How can we change that perception of the youth?
Okay, first thing, here in America, they have an organization in the schools called Future Farmers of America, FFA. And it's like a club where they get all the training, all the field trips, all the assistance, and they are well organized. They're international. They travel the world looking at different family systems. That's in America. In Dominica, we tried to implement a school agricultural program in the schools. The syllabus was developed, everything was tested, ready to go. The government allowed it to fall. But if you have agriculture in schools, like when we grew up, we had agriculture in schools. You introduce the kids from there, from kindergarten. I mean, I did my program I did in St. Croix. I ran a greenhouse program. For example, we had about 2 acres of land with a couple greenhouses, and all we did was students come and volunteer for a part of their credits for graduation. High school students will come and work on the farm as part of the credits for graduation. Second thing, all classes in the various schools will come to the farm. We produce vegetables and fruits, go directly every Friday to the senior homes. So all the seniors will benefit from that produce. And we produce horticulture plants for landscaping government institutions. But the important thing is that the kids came there, get exposed, get to appreciate what agriculture is. So first thing, you must have a system of exposing the school children to farming and let them appreciate it. Not everyone will like it, but you'll find a niche of them that will like it. The second thing, you must have a special investment opportunity for people who are interested. Like, you know, I said many times already, we had a young farmer training and development program. We agreed to spend $1 million a year to train about 30 to 40 farmers, let them come in, do their training, get a project going, and give them initial investment to buy the tools and equipment they need, and pay them for the first 6 months allowance that will help them establish their farm. So you have to make the investment. Come up with a project, make an investment. But before I go, I want to give an example to tell you when the government working, the people benefit. Bello, as you know, was a agro-processing facility in Dominica. When we came in office in '95, Bello used to import pepper puree from Costa Rica. So you get those big barrels of pepper, just rebottle them, and then sell them. We go to Bello, and we tell Bello, we want to produce pepper for you. They agreed to make an agreement, and within a year, Bello had enough pepper. And what it did, it gave us an opportunity now to start exporting fresh peppers. Because we had a lot of peppers, we started looking for market outside, we started exporting fresh peppers. Now I say pepper as an example, because as people getting to eat healthier and people use less salt, pepper is being used more widely in the cooking industry. So now, if Dominica can produce a lot of peppers, now it's left to the marketing officers to go out there and find out where we can sell peppers. Go back to the farmers, give them the support to produce peppers. And that's the way you develop industry. We could have a pepper industry producing maybe $50 million a year selling peppers, because peppers is widely being used now. A lot of people eating peppers now especially in the US, using peppers in their cooking. But you have to have initiative. You can't sit down and it will happen to you. You have to have people that will go out there, take the initiative, or challenge your staff to do it. The minister must have the vision. So you can say, look, that's my vision, and then your staff can go out and do the work to make sure we get the goals of that vision. That's what you have to do.
Yes, indeed. Just before Major chime back in here, let me apologize to the many comments, many suggestions coming in here. In the interest of time, we cannot take every one of them, but you can well understand. But Didi Easter is making a fundamental point here, and I would just like Major to respond to that statement that one called Didi Easter is making. That person said, food security in the context of globalization is becoming increasingly important. Food is an essential element in the lives of all people. Our own supply is becoming more and more globalized, which indicates a high degree of imported, frozen, processed, and very unhealthy foods for the human body. To avert, and that's the point I want Major to really chime in on here, to avert a major catastrophe, the leaders must focus on reviving the agriculture industry in our region. Your point on that comment, sir.
I am in total agreement with the contribution of the person who is making that we can never ever take our eyes off of the importance of food security, and we should do all that's in our powers to make sure that we can feed ourselves, especially in the times of adversity. If we look around the world, we will see that anytime that we have a disaster of any kind, whether it's domestic, regional, or international, one of the first fallouts of that is the availability of food and the price of food, the scarcity of food, and and nutritious food. And if we at least at the very minimum can take care of that, then we're doing well for ourselves. I am so much in love with the point that and the direction that that person is going, and it's not really removed from the argument that Peter himself will be making. And Peter will tell you that where he's there in Florida, and I think that's what he said, or in America,
Yeah.
let me use the one, Florida. One of the things that we in the Caribbean don't readily understand or appreciate, that even for big farmers, much more so to the very small farmer, American agriculture is very, very heavily subsidized.
World agriculture is subsidized. Not only
Huh?
America. World agriculture is subsidized.
Yes. So that there's nothing wrong with our governments having faith in our farmers and finding mechanisms and modalities to subsidize them. What happens, or what I think, is that too often our political elites are ready to invest money on bricks and mortar items, in which very often they can have their names etched. So you build a bridge and your name is on it. You put up a resource center, your name is on it. You put a school, you want your name on it. But they don't have the same appetite for systems that can uplift and enrich our farm communities. So what is so wrong, for example, let's go back without necessarily resurrecting the lofty idea that if in the windfall that governments had from the CBI programs, that apart from some of the bricks and mortar items, a portion of those monies had been set aside for agricultural development specifically in all of its forms and facets, including income support, where farmers are taking undue risk, or credit facilities, or other hand-holding activities that allows them to get up to speed and efficiency and optimum operating capacities. So that by their own examples, the young generation would come to realization, well, this thing can pay. I can live on this. I saw my mother, my father, my uncle, my brother did it successfully. And I am assured that these are state mechanisms that are in place to allow me to be a successful person. I think that itself will assist us in a great deal. But I think very often we are not doing that. And we need to, again, I said, to redirect and rethink the way we lend support to our young people in our agricultural sector. Because it's obvious, it's a truism. If the young people are not getting into agriculture as we would like to see, then it's only a matter of time that what's bad will get worse. And so that should be identified as an action of urgency. You know, in all of our Caribbean countries, every one of them, the names are slightly different. But that ministry referred to as Transport and Works or Public Works Department or whatever it is, the one that has all the heavy equipment, the bulldozers, the excavators, the front-end loaders, and so on and so forth, is often one of the more powerful ministries in governmental system. Because all of these things that are necessary to get infrastructural things done are present. And so too are the engineers and technicians that lend support to that Public Works Transport Ministry effectively. What you don't often see in the Caribbean is a ministry, and in this case, the Ministry of Agriculture, with an integrated staffing, so that inside of that ministry, there are people whose responsibility is not just necessary to get the things produced, but the food and drug, the food technologists are there, the economists are there, the accountants are there, the technical people are there, so that they are working hand in glove, rather than having to go through a multiplicity of ministries and bureaucracies to get and serve the farmers. And so that today you find that a lot of ministries in the Caribbean, sadly, so even in St. Vincent, I get that impression that agriculture has become an 8-to-4 ministry. It is no longer an extension farmer wants to see that this farmer A, B, C, D, or E succeed, or this plot succeed, or this new experimentation succeed, or this new product survives, and that he has support systems because he's taking this thing like a really, as far as he or she can take it, but he knows that somebody's going to take that up and take it to the next level. and we need to rethink some of the organization forms that we have in place to encourage the tangible farmers, because at the end of the day, the farmer has to eat, he has to feed his family, he has to educate them, he has to take care of their health needs. And it's not like when a farmer is getting up in age and they start to deal with the realities of life, that he can't lift anymore the things that he used to lift before. He can't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning as he used to do before. Or he can't move from the farm produce into a truck and to the supermarket and back in his way he did before. But he's now guaranteed that there are systems that allows all of those things to continue as he is attending out to his prostate or his sugar or his pressure or his failing eyesight or his whatever it is. But if the countries have systems in place that encourages and motivates and rewards, and I want to underline rewards farmers for their effort, we can be better agricultural communities.
Yeah, Lofty, food is a national security issue. If you have no food, your people will die. Okay? So every country in the world try to produce some food. In Europe, I think they subsidize their agriculture by some 58%. In the United States, I think it's 42%. In Dominica, it's 0%. Well, maybe 10% because they pay for the extension officers and whatever. But the point is, food security is important, and subsidiary agriculture is not lost. Because rather than having to give seniors $300 now, if they had a farm and they was producing and they were selling their crops, that money could go and do something else. And they wouldn't be making 300, they'd be making 3,000. So it's important to have industries where people, and what has happened to Dominica, because we lost agriculture, we have a group of young people, a generation of idlers. They don't know what is it to work. And that is a crisis situation in Dominica, because many young people now in their 20s and they haven't received a paycheck. Now, that person, I mean, almost can't fit in the productive life. They're going to have to be dependent on somebody all of their life. So that's a crisis. Now, what is even worse? We have an alcohol abuse problem. So we have those blocks set up in every village by a shop, and all they do is sit there and drink rum. But that, I don't know if Dominica haven't seen it.
And play dominoes.
Yes, that's a crisis.
And you
That's
have,
a crisis.
and you have to add the weed to that too, Peter.
That is a crisis for our society. I mean, when I grew up, everybody went to, well, Paula, no, everybody went to the garden. If your parents didn't have land, you go with somebody, because in the end, you get some money. So children, even in holiday time, all the kids in 13, 14 years on the farm, you know, so people learn to work. So when they go in the outer world, working at a problem. But we have a generation now of idlers that I don't know how we can get them back to work. Because if you work from the time you leave school 18 years to until you're 30 years, how I can get you to work? How you can get income to raise a family? And that's a major problem in Dominica. I see it brewing, and I don't know why the religious people and the social activists don't recognize that's going to be a major headache for everybody. Don't think you can get away from it, because idle people now will start looking to live from you. That's the next step. So it's a problem, and farming allows the opportunity for everybody to go out there and do some work and earn some money. And that is one of the main reasons for reinvesting in the rural areas, so that people can get opportunity to work.
I must say, Lofty, I feel a little uncomfortable with Peter in that he hasn't said anything to make me disagree with him. And that doesn't make for good politics.
Great minds think alike. Great minds think alike.
You know,
Well, here's your opportunity, Major. Go right ahead. Say something you think you might disagree with.
So I'm getting a little uncomfortable, you know.
That's fine.
And things are so intertwined, you know. Recently in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, our guys here boasted that we were able to export 100 pounds of marijuana, because that's the new gold mine. But in the same week, they were sending a couple guys to jail for trying to export the other marijuana, the non-medicinal marijuana. so it seems to me That if I have to judge in what I see is happening here, all is not lost in agriculture. Marijuana is on the scene. Have no fear.
Have no fear. Guys, slowly but surely, our time is slowly but surely coming to an end. And so just to kind of bring a wrap to the discussion this afternoon, I've been listening, Paul, I've been listening, the person I've been viewing and listening as well. We heard from you guys in terms of your commentaries. We heard about the innovative investment, innovative ideas to make agriculture much better than this would be. We also heard branding. Major spoke about the need for branding or rebranding as it were. We also heard about that collective regional approach to agriculture so that it could be much more successful. We heard about, more research could go into the whole idea of better agricultural techniques, food technologies, and, even our foreign ministry, they too have a part to play in terms of, pushing our products out there, our agricultural products out there. We also heard about, you guys talked about the proper systems, the irrigation systems, whatever systems that need to be in place so that agriculture could be on the front burner again. We heard about the I think it's Carbon that touched on that point in terms of the cost effectiveness and competitiveness where it relates to agricultural products and produce that we ship to other countries. Now, having said all that, let me just go back to the topic at hand. Do you guys still think that, having said all that this afternoon, and I know you guys have more to say on that topic about agriculture, the topic that we started off with is agriculture still the key economic and transformation driver to Dominica? We're talking in Dominica's case, Peter is here. St. Vincent and the Grenadines case, we're talking to Major, and also by extension, our region. Do you guys still think that agriculture can still play a pivotal role in getting us there?
Well, let me go first. Dominica is agriculture, and agriculture is Dominica. That is our culture, is our spiritual food, is our physical food. Our people have, my whole life came from agriculture, and many, many people like me. Young people in their 40s and 50s in the rural areas, Lofty, maybe 40s and 50s, people who had an opportunity to be in agriculture before this government. They were able to build a house, they were able to get married, they were able to buy their vehicles. And the evidence is there to see. People in their early 50s. The people who are suffering now is the people who came of age under this Labour Party who had nothing to do, and the older people who had their crops to sell and had no market to sell it. So we have to recognize that we have the opportunity, our economic life depend on agriculture. That should be the base. We add other things like tourism, we add other things like passport selling, we add other things to it, but we can't destroy it and replace it with anything but agriculture.
Major, do you still see agriculture doing anything for us positively in the region?
I absolutely concur and agree. I will be a willing permanent secretary to Peter at any time. God has given us agriculture. He's given us the land. He's given us the soil. He has given us good, hardworking, resilient, and determined people. And don't challenge that. You just have to look at Dominica, look at St. Vincent. For very many people who you think couldn't make it in their homeland, and see how those people perform when they're given opportunity in another man's country. And you look at the success that they have made and what they've made of themselves. You do the same thing for them in any of our Caribbean countries, and the sky is the limit. I wouldn't expand my argument to one or two Caribbean countries to say that it's the center of gravity, let's say for Trinidad and Tobago, which is oil-based, or Guyana. Well, Guyana, sure, because with all this land, it still will do that, even though now that they're all rich. But or Jamaica, which has mining alternatives. But certainly, for the majority of the smaller Caribbean countries, and especially St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we should up the game with respect to our recurrent and capital investments in agriculture and with our people, and support our farmers. And I think we'll all have better Caribbean societies.
Yep.
True. Thank you very much. Guys, let me on behalf of all and the many listeners, thank you as well. But we always try to end on a very high note. The conversation itself was right up there. There's always a call to action aspect that we end each and every program on. That aspect is where we try not just to talk to people or talk with them, but to try to motivate them, to inspire, to empower them, as it were. Now, it would be remiss of me if I didn't end on that note this afternoon and ask you guys, having said all what you guys said about agriculture and the need for it this afternoon, how would you, Major, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, talk to your people as it relates to empowering them, inspiring them, and motivating them to have agriculture as their mainstay still, or try agriculture, those who are not there as yet?
Well, you basically asked me a communication question. I am of the old school, and I believe the older generation, or a couple of years ago, when we came out of a particular period, we had better conversations with our people. I believe too much of our political conversations are going on over the heads of our people, who in many cases have lost faith in their political leadership. And I said this to my own leader, Dr. Friday, in one of our private conversations. We have to start to find a new way as politicians and as leaders to evangelize, go back to basics in educating, and winning trust and confidence in our people. That the better way is that way which all people always knew ahead of us. That is not just making speed when the sun shines, but hold on to that which God has given to us very dearly. And that is decency, harmony, and opportunity in agriculture. But we have need to change the way we have these conversations with the people. And we should never, ever lose faith in the young people, however challenging that it is. Without them, we're back to square one.
That's why the nickname Major.
The Major.
Peter,
Yeah.
same question to you, sir. As we
Well,
wind up.
I would say to my people, agriculture might be looking as hard work, but hard work never kill anybody. When you look at what we were able to achieve with an agricultural industry before 2000, that should inspire our people. And all the people should be strong enough and bold enough to speak to young people. Let them know that they can make a livelihood of the land. And we need to get our business sector, our clergy, all the institutions to voice the need for revitalization of our agricultural industry. Not giving little handout that expect to get a vote back by giving a bag of fertilizer or giving a spade or giving. That is what agriculture come to. That you had projects. You come out and you said, we want 200 acres of planting. And you supply the requirements to ensure that you plant 200 acres of planting. And you have a market ready to accept the planting when they're ready. That is where we develop agriculture over the years. We had a coconut project, we had banana rehabilitation, replanting, we had root crop project. We always had projects that had goals, and we knew the investment that was being made. That is what we need for agriculture. And as just to go back on what Major said, in America, what you have, the politicians are there to talk. They have no management responsibility. So you have qualified people as secretary of every industry. So you have a secretary of agriculture. He's a qualified person that was appointed to manage agriculture. So the people you are talking, or the president, have got nothing in terms of the agriculture program for America. Our problem is that the elected members have the responsibility for the work program of the country. So you have, as a politician, you have to realize that your politics is for campaign. When you get appointed as a minister, you are manager of a program, and you cannot be playing politics with it. Everybody loses, including you. You might be winning next election and next election, but in the end, your country will fall. As Minister of Agriculture, I had 0% political involvement in the Ministry of Agriculture. When I go down on the weekend, I talk to my people, I play politics. On the weekend, I campaign. But in terms of the Ministry of Agriculture, I manage that ministry for all Dominicans. Every Dominican had equal opportunity on any programs we undertake. And that is what's killing us. They play in politics with everything, and that's destroying the country for everybody.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very, very much for your valuable contribution here this afternoon. So let me just turn over now to Paula Celestine, who will give her quote-unquote closing remarks to you guys at this time before we bring the program to a wrap. Paula, yes.
Yes, my closing remarks, Lofty, as we come to the end this afternoon. This is for the government, especially those in the Caribbean where we have fertile soil. I want to say we missed out on a very great opportunity after Hurricane Maria and also the beginning of COVID, because there's a number of countries, we've seen what ginger and turmeric have been doing. And Dominica, for example, is one of the countries that we have rich soil. We grow a lot of turmeric, a lot of ginger, a lot of citrus, because we've seen what limes and oranges and all of these persons are saying these are very good stuff that you could use for COVID. So I'm saying on the governments that are interested in selling passports, selling our citizenship, I'm saying, let us find a market out there. Let us get a boat. Let us encourage our young farmers to grow more. Those actually who have not yet been into producing, I am saying, let us put a little more interest into our young persons, and that they will be able to go back to the soil. For those who were there already and have left it, they will be able to go back to the soil. Because for now, I see no other way than agriculture. Thank you very much, Lofty, and thank you very much for our guests that we have had this afternoon. It was indeed a very wonderful program, very informative. It's just that, you know, sometimes how time flies, and there could be much more that could have been said here, but in the interest of time, we have to come to a wrap. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Good.
Thanks. Good meeting you, Peter.
Yes, good. When I come to St. Vincent, I'll look for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh,
Blessing.
okay then, good.
Very good.
Bye.
Very good.
Are you still there, Major?
No,
Peter, are you still there?
Yeah, you want me? Yes.
Okay, I realized that Major has left us, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to read two comments just before you guys go. And these comments are coming from the persons listening and viewing the program. I think they kind of put in here into context what Paula and I want to say to you guys in terms of your invaluable contribution this afternoon. Elizabeth Douglas writes, great program, Lofty and Paula. Thanks, Major and Mr. Carbon, for your valuable and educational program. And also, Marilyn B. Isles wrote, ideas after ideas upon ideas, great initiative, competence, vision, spiritual and physical passion. You gentlemen are diamonds in our region. That is how I want to tell you guys, thank you very much this afternoon for your inputs.
Thank you.
Indeed. All right. So Peter, thank you very much. See you next time.
Yes, good. All right, bye-bye.
Right, indeed.
Okay.
All right, Paula, let's take 5 minutes with ourselves. Paula, what is happening in your neck of the woods, Paula? We are hearing about a press conference tomorrow. Peter will soon depart from us now.
Yeah, I have to go to. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem, Peter.
Okay.
You're free to go now. No problem.
Yes.
All right, take care.
I thank you.
All right. Paula, we have like 5 minutes before we bring the program to a wrap. Anything of particular, anything of note you want to touch on before we leave, Paula? Anything?
Yeah, you spoke.
Yeah.
Yes, Lofty. Yeah, you were talking about the press conference tomorrow.
Yes.
Yes, press conference tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the PSU building.
Yes.
Yeah, you want to give the listeners and the viewers a little more information on this, Lofty? Yeah, let's do that.
Just get my bearings right. Yes, Paula spoke about, thank you, Paula, for reminding me about the press conference tomorrow. Tomorrow, there will be a press conference hosted by some of the, or the majority of the opposition forces in Dominica. Yes, you heard me right, the opposition forces or the opposing forces in Dominica. The press conference at the DPSU, that is the Dominica Public Service Union building on Valley Road at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. That is a scheduled press conference by the opposing forces in Dominica. There are a number of groups, there are a number of individuals that will be represented here by a number of positions. So you want to be in tune for that press conference tomorrow. Also, there will be some sort of mobilizing efforts after that press conference from Monday after the press conference. There will be some kind of mobilization efforts across the length and breadth of Dominica, because what is happening in our country, Dominica, it is very crucial, it is very critical that we continue to do what we have to do to basically try to liberate Dominica, liberate ourselves from what has been posing as a government for the past 20 or years in Dominica, in particular, past 14, 15 years. And I can tell you, after all that is said and done, after the press conference tomorrow, after this mobilization period, then we're hearing as well some kind of mass action. I use my words very right here, mass action sometime later this month, where some demands placed on the table by the opposition forces. So you guys out there, also you guys in Dominica, you can feel free to participate and please feel free to partake in whatever is on the table as it pertains to your engagement in that endeavor. Before we leave, we heard of a very sad situation in Wesley area. I know all I have in the Wesley area with drowning man. The information is still a bit sketchy, but for sure it's confirmed that drowned in, I think, Artist area. Based on when I checked this afternoon with his relatives, I think he drowned about 2 days ago, 2 days thereabout, I think Friday or Thursday, somewhere around there, Thursday. And his body has still not yet been found. So we continue to sympathize and empathize with his grieving at this time as it relates to drowning at the Wesley area. Let me just move over to Paula now so that she can final and closing comments, and thereafter we'll bring this program to wrap. Yes.
Yeah, Lofty. Let me just explain that a little bit. For persons who actually have received us here this afternoon, yeah, and you said opposing persons. I want to be a little more specific and to be more clear. Lofty did not say the opposition party. Sometimes some persons give it a twist, a different turn. Lofty did not say this press conference was being organized by the opposition party. He said the opposition persons who are opposing to this ruling party. So it's like, don't give it a different turn, don't give it a different twist. Don't mix the words. He didn't say the opposition party. So anybody who is not in agreement with what's happening and they're opposing, tomorrow press conference at 10 a.m. at the PSU. And for those of you who maybe might be wondering, where is the PSU? We are talking right across from the Botanical Gardens. We're talking about the Public Service Union office right there. So tomorrow morning from 10 a.m. Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the evening, everyone. Till next time. Ciao, ciao.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Paula. Indeed, Dominicans, those of you in the region and further afield, we want to thank you very much for your listening and also viewing as well. Each and every Sunday from the 4 o'clock hour, we had two formidable guests, two formidable men in our presence here this afternoon in the name of Mr. Sinclair Leacock out of St. Vincent's and the Grenadines, and also Brother Peter Carbon, Dominican as well. They did justice to the topic that we discussed this afternoon. And the question we asked these two gentlemen was, is agriculture still the key to transform our economies in the region? And so they deliberated on that, and we got much food for thought this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all for us here. We thank you very much. Please feel free to be with us next week at the same time from 4 o'clock right here on Civic Vibes. I have another topic of national or regional or maybe even international significance. We indulge your presence and patience there next week. So as we go, I want to ask the God above to protect you throughout the night, and that whatever you have to do, be blessed, everyone. See you guys. We'll leave you with some of the music for the Soul Puss that we started with, to end with that in terms of the need for all of us to go back to the soil in some way, some shape, some form. All those, there are a number of persons, 100+ persons on the live. Thank you very, very much. Your presence, participation, your engagement with us here is always, always appreciated. We always, always look forward to spending time with you each and every Sunday. Thank you. All right, let's do that number from Soul Post as we bring to a wrap in the next 5 minutes. So, yeah.
Sure, as what looks up, it won't be too long.
Let's